They said the crown is eternal, but no one said the man who wore it was invincible. The nation awoke to silence that felt louder than any royal fanfare. Windsor Castle had spoken. King Charles III, gone. Just like that, peacefully, quietly, yet with a thunder that shook the kingdom to its core. No one expected the call. Not then. Not like this. The weeks leading up to his passing were laced with uncertainty, subtle tension behind the palace gates. He was still seen in public, yes, but the air around him was thinner, his smile softer, his gaze longer. Insiders knew something was coming, but not even they were ready for how fast it arrived. It was July 18th, 275, a date that will now forever live in royal memory. In the dead of night, a call reached Amber Hall. Prince William, once just a heartbeat away from the throne, was now the heartbeat of the monarchy. His father, his king, was no more. Catherine held his hand. The children still slept, unaware that, when they'd wake, the world would never be the same. This wasn't just the death of a monarch. It was the quiet collapse of a pillar that held together generations of duty, legacy, and public hope. King Charles had been many things: a bridge between the old world and the new, a defender of the planet, a man who carried the crown not with ease, but with weight and wisdom. But in the end, it was that very weight of duty, of illness, of expectation that brought his journey to an unexpected halt. Cancer had been part of his story for months, first whispered in corridors, then confirmed. He'd carried on, determined to lead, determined to heal the nation even as he tried to heal himself. But his body had other plans. Balmoral Castle, once the backdrop for royal holidays, became the place where the king breathed his last. Behind the palace walls, tears fell quietly. No cameras, no reporters, just family, broken, grieving, stunned. But the crown waits for no one. Succession is not about emotion. It's about continuity, stability, structure. And so, almost instantly, Prince William became King William V. No announcement needed, no delay. The law is clear. The moment Charles died, William rose. He wasn't ready. No one ever is. He whispered to Catherine, "We have to be strong for them now. Not for the cameras, not for the world, but for George, Charlotte, and little Louis, 3 children whose bedtime stories suddenly became real-life history." The coronation didn't happen weeks later. It happened overnight. Westminster Abbey, usually a place of grand orchestration, now lit only by soft golden light, held a ceremony so raw and real it felt less like a crowning and more like a passing of the torch in the middle of a storm. The Archbishop of Canterbury led. Holy oil touched William's forehead. Catherine stood beside him, eyes glassy, lips steady. When the crown was placed on her head, she didn't smile. She simply nodded, aware of the responsibility now stitched into every breath she took. It was not a fairy tale. It was survival. And yet, through the sorrow, something stirred. A nation began to heal, not by forgetting the old king, but by embracing the new. Flowers lined the gates of Buckingham Palace. Tributes poured in from every continent. Commonwealth leaders bowed their heads. Social media, for once, unified. "Long live the king," they typed. "Well done, king," they typed, while still whispering goodbye to the one they had just lost. William, eyes red, voice cracking, signed the documents. The Accession Council convened virtually for the first time in history. Camilla, now Queen Dowager, sat quietly holding William's hand. "He believed in you," she whispered. And he had. King Charles had always said family was his strength. And it was that very family that now stood in the eye of the storm, trying to balance grief with governance. Catherine, no longer the Princess of Wales, became Queen Catherine, and her role evolved instantly. She was the steady hand, the anchor, the calm. She whispered reassurances to her children. She adjusted Charlotte's hair before the service. She held Louis close when his questions were too innocent for the moment. And she stood tall beside William, now not just a partner in marriage, but a partner in monarchy. But perhaps the most poignant part of this story was not the ceremony, or the crown, or the headlines. It was the silence in the children's eyes. George, now second in line, stood a little straighter, the weight on his young shoulders heavy, but his chin lifted with purpose. Charlotte offered soft words to comfort her little brother, stepping into a quiet role of leadership. Louis, too young to fully grasp it all, brought flickers of light through small, unfiltered joy. Their world had changed, but in each other they found steadiness. This wasn't just history being made, it was history being felt. And still, not everyone was present. The absence of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle added an ache to the already heavy air. The divide still lingered. Whispers of reconciliation grew louder, but nothing was confirmed. In this moment of unity, there were still cracks, yet the future began to take shape, one breath at a time. King William V is not his father. He's not his grandmother either. He is something new, something modern, raised under the shadow of cameras and expectation, but also moulded by the very human experience of family, grief, and love. His path was never truly private, yet in this moment his heart showed through the duty. He had always admired his father, he had always feared this day. But now, with the weight of a nation on his shoulders, he stepped forward not as the reluctant king, but the ready one. His vision is clear: a slimmed-down monarchy, a modernised palace, causes that reflect the world we live in, climate change, mental health, childhood development. His reign, though born in sorrow, is rooted in purpose. He speaks not just as king, but as a father, a husband, a man trying to lead while still learning to let go. And Queen Catherine, the once shy girl who married into royalty, now becomes the beating heart of the crown. Her cancer battle, much like Charles's, gave her a quiet strength. Her rise wasn't staged, it was earned. Her grace is quiet, her resolve unshakable. Together, they aren't just symbols, they're people. And in that, the monarchy finds its pulse again. As the first dawn rose over a newly crowned king and queen, the world watched, not for drama, not for scandal, but for something deeper: hope, continuity, the belief that even in endings, beginnings can shine just as bright. A nation mourned, a family cried, and yet the crown endured. Because in the quiet halls of Windsor and the echoing arches of Westminster and the hearts of millions who grew up watching this story unfold, something profound happened. The monarchy has always been about more than power. It's about legacy, sacrifice, and continuity. In losing King Charles, the nation didn't just say goodbye to a sovereign. It mourned a father, a grandfather, a man who spent his final days trying to balance the immense responsibility of the crown with the quiet pain of illness. His final acts, though private, were deeply human, preparing his family, passing on wisdom, and standing firm in the face of fragility. This sudden transition didn't give the royal family time to brace or plan, and maybe that's what made it so deeply real. No perfectly choreographed procession, no rehearsed smiles, just grief, raw and unfiltered. A son weeping for his father, a wife stepping up not for ceremony but for survival, children learning, too soon, that history isn't just something you read in books. Sometimes you live it. And through it all, the world watched not with judgment, but with empathy. Because at its core, this wasn't just a royal story, it was a human one. Now, the future unfolds in real time. King William and Queen Catherine carry forward the vision of a modern monarchy, one grounded in compassion, relevance, and resilience. Their reign begins not with fanfare, but with quiet strength and shared sorrow. And in that silence, there is something powerful, something that says the crown may shift, the faces may change, but the values, service, unity, and duty remain stronger than ever. Legacy met destiny, and for the first time in a long time, it felt personal. So what lies ahead for King William and Queen Catherine? Only time will tell. But if this moment taught us anything, it's that royalty isn't just about crowns and titles. It's about how you carry the weight when no one else can. And in that, this new chapter has already begun with courage, compassion, and quiet strength.